Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our questions and answer about real estate and mortgages. My name is Arlindo Machado. I'm the founder of One Way Realty Group, and also I'm the broker. And we have today with us Yuri Baturenko, which is the founder of Vanguard Mortgage Group. So we're gonna have some questions that we're gonna be addressed. There's also a lot of concerns about the real estate market, and we're gonna try to address all those concerns in our time. Once again, welcome to our questions and answers. Welcome, Yuri. Thank you for being
Hi,
here with us.
Arlindo. Hello, Arlindo. No, thank you for inviting. I know you're in Brazil, and I know that you're having fun there. But that's great to see you, and that's great to be in the studio with you, and then discuss real estate as usual. That the best topic for me, most interesting, and so let's do it.
All right, we're gonna go for the first question. There's a lot of concerns and questions that people don't understand the terms of rate lock or rate lock extensions or relock. Can you explain us what those terms means to the buyer?
Of course, it's very important. It's super important, especially in unstable rates market. And the reason is what lock is basically when you enter in the purchase contract. It's also possible to do it before actually entering so-called lock and shop. But discuss when you enter in a purchase contract, it will take time to close the transaction. During this time, we know that in a fluctuating rates environment, things can change, can go wrong, and can, increase drastically, which will increase amount of mortgage payment per month, and then that can be even disqualifier from obtaining a mortgage during this period of time. So what banks offer and lenders offer is rate lock, meaning that from the beginning we lock in the rate that the mortgage will be provided. So with that, even if the rates go up, banks will still honor this rate. How do they do that? Because once the rate is locked, they reserve that currency. They reserve it at that rate. So then when the time comes, it is available to them at that rate, no matter that all rates went up. So what happens if, for example, we lock the rate for 30 days, right? And then we are not in time to close the transaction in these 30 days. So there is availability of rate lock extension, meaning that some banks provide it, some banks provide even two rate lock extensions, but some say that no, it's only one, only for 5 or 10 days. Some can provide for 30 days. So it's all different, but it's already a dangerous zone where it is possible to lose rate was locked. Rate lock extensions typically are provided for the cost, but it's not as much as that cost wouldn't be as much as if the rate lock expires and then you didn't extend and then you're forced to relock. That's the term. Relock comes at the market price. So let's say that the rate was 5% and it increased to 6% within 30 days, which is in nowadays market possible, and you'll be forced to relock at 6%, and then you'll pay slight penalty also, like let's say 0.1%. So relock is expensive and it's not good in the current environment. So by all means, we're trying to avoid these things. And actually, it never happened with me in this environment. It did happen in other when the rates were stable. So it is critical in this environment to look into rate locks and lock it pretty much right away from the transaction. Now, from the beginning of the transaction, also what I want to point out, which makes us brokers more exclusive than banks. If the client goes to the bank and locks the rate, that's it, it's locked there. And then even if the rates during the period go down, they cannot actually take a lower rate because it's locked. With me or with other brokers, we can. we cannot do it with the same bank, but we can quickly shift to another bank and take lower rate and close transaction with another bank. So we do that for our clients, and banks don't really like that, wholesale lenders. But again, I'm here working not for the bank, I'm working for the client, so I will always do what is the best for the client. So that is briefly explaining rate lock, relock, and lock extension. And now I have, right, I know that you also, you're a broker, but I know also that you're not only selling real estate, you teach in real estate, you do classes, you have students, and I thought that you would be the greatest person to ask this question. It's about contract, because this is a like most people think that it's a basic stuff, but this is a complicated thing. And today I would want to ask you a simple question that actually does have a lot under it. The binding power of the contract, what it means for the seller and what it would mean for the buyer.
Yuri, that's a great question. Having this situation in our company many times, also some of my students always calls me with the same concern, because every transaction is different. The way that we process a transaction from the beginning to the end, it's not always the same. It's always going to be different. And then we need to know what is the responsibility for the buyer and what is the responsibility for the seller, and who can get out of the contract. And you point that very well. Once the buyer and the sellers get into an agreement, both of them are binding to the contract. There is one situation for the seller, because the seller does not have any exit window. Once the seller signs a sales contract, the seller has to sell. If the seller decides not to sell, the buyer has the right to sue the seller for a specific performance, meaning sell it. So there is no exit window. We've seen many situations where the seller, for whatever reason, they try to get out of the contract, but there is no way to do it. Well, on the buyer side, on the other hand, they are also binding to the contract, but we do create it with the contract some exit windows. So the only party on the contract that has opportunities is the buyer. First one. Today, we use the as-is contract. The as-is contract was not created for a regular transaction. We always use the standard contract, but because it became so popular, now every single transactions are done through as-is contract. What is the good thing about we do have something that is called inspection period. So whatever number of days that we put it on the inspection period creates to the buyer an exit window. So let's say they put 10 days for inspection period. The contract says this: if the buyer, as buyer's sole discretion, decides that the property is not suitable for the buyer can cancel the contract by submitting a written cancellation to the seller, and he can get his deposit back and cancel the contract, get out of the contract. So this is a window that we created for the buyer. Now the buyer has another exit window if the buyer is buying a condominium. They have a 3 days rescission period for the resale and 15 days rescission period for the new construction. If the buyer receives the condo docs, he has 3 days to read the condo docs, which has the rules and regulations of the association. And if he doesn't like anything that he sees, he has 3 days to cancel the contract. And that's a very simple situation. Example, sometimes the buyer says, I have a pet, I have a dog. All right, so then we find in a condominium that allows pets, allows dogs. But if they don't see what is the restriction for the pets, they're only going to be seen when they read the condo docs. They might say, well, we only allow up to 20 pounds. And if the buyer has a German Shepherd with 50 pounds, they're not going to be accepted on the association. Then he's not forced to buy it. He can use the 3 days rescission period, and cancel the contract, right? Another situation is that if the buyer is buying with the contingency on financing, if the buyer gets denied on a loan, then the buyer can get out of the contract without losing his deposit.
That is correct. But then I would want to cover the financing contingency and what it is in a separate topic, because there are a lot of things that are explained differently by different type of professionals. And I actually did consult a lawyer on the topic of financing contingency, so I am educated and I know what are the correct answers, because sometimes sellers, realtors, they interpret it differently than buyers, realtors, and then they want to, like, it's sometimes people interpret things differently about financing contingency. So I would like to cover it in a separate topic. But now I would want to talk about, you know, current situation on the market. And here is my question to you about real estate. Well, first, I would want you to address real estate in South Florida in summer, in general, what it is and how it is like. Are there any differences than any other season? And second, current market situation with everything that is happening. What is going on the Florida market of real estate? Price drops, inventory, if the seller market still prevail, or it kind of balances out. This, your outlook on this?
Yuri, I would tell you that this is one of the most important topics in real estate today, because there are a lot of gossiping, which are creating fears and panic. Buyers are afraid, should I buy now when the price is high, and then the price is going to go down, I'm going to lose the money that I put it on the house. So there are a lot of fears and panic, but they are based on gossips. The best way for us to take any type of decision or conclusion, it must be based on facts and information. And the facts shows us, especially if you look into our history in real estate, we never seen anything like this. And when we had the situation in 2008, which is the reason for the fear, it was a different type of market. The reason why the price went down was different. Right now, the reason why it's going up is because we have no supplies. It's not because people are getting loans with no documentation, with no income verification. That's not the reason why houses are being sold so much. And last June was the third consecutive month of June that the number of sales were high. So we got 2020, 2021, and 2022. We beat all the Junes prior to 2020. And the reason why we have those money sales, and we're not going to see this, is because we don't have supply. So in any type of market, doesn't matter what type of product you sell, what regulates price is demand and supply. If we have low supply and high demand, what does that mean? It means that the price is going to go up because we don't have supplies, but we have a lot of demands. So you do have sellers that were brought to the market because of that situation. They were thinking, I'm not going to sell my house, but then some person comes and say, oh, I will give you $200,000 above the market value. So then the seller thinks, wow, if he's going to give me $200,000, I'll sell it. Right?
Correct.
I don't want to sell my house, but if you give me $10 million in my house, I'll sell it. So there are a lot of sellings that happens in that way. So now we have a high demand and a lower supply. The only way for the price to go down is if we have more supplies. But
Correct.
what's going to happen is that not that the price is going to go down, it's going to stop going up so much. We're not going to see 2 digits on the appreciation of properties anymore.
Correct.
Now we're going to regulate prices, and it's going to go back to 4-5% appreciation every year. So
Correct.
if buyers today are waiting for the price to come down to buy, they're losing a good time to buy property.
I'll give you, I totally agree with you. I'll give you outlook on what is happening on the financing side. We all know that today Fed increased rates on 0.75, which was already priced in, so there won't be large price adjustment now. If they increase by 1%, then we would see price adjustment, we would see rates going a little bit higher, but because it was priced in already, so nothing is really happening. Now, what I want to talk about is why, to my understanding, it is the best time to buy real estate at this specific moment, even better than a year ago when the rates were 2.5%. And here it is why. The inflation that we have now, I mean, I was talking about inflation a year ago, and those people that did buy at that time, they did a great decision. Now, what is happening now, it's always also a good time to buy, because we have inflation at 9.1%. This is the most recent data. We're going to be looking at new numbers, and I believe it can be double digits by the end of the year, but for now it's 9.1%, where the borrower at the moment can borrow at 5.75%, right? So the difference is over 3%. So borrowing money, you're paying for it less than actually money loses in value, you know, because the value of money decreases by 9.1%. and you are borrowing at 5.75. So by borrowing money, you're actually making money because you have to repay less in future. Time value of money, right? So when the time was 3% and inflation was 4%, right? Or 3.5% and inflation 4.5%. So there was only 1% difference, and it was good time to borrow. Everybody did. Now we have over 3% in difference between rate and inflation. So it's a good, you're actually making more money by borrowing money, right?
Yeah.
And appreciation in real estate, obviously with the high inflation, is going to be going higher because money loses value. What doesn't lose value? Goods don't lose value. They actually become more and more expensive because the value of money decreases. So now let's say this, so this is based on interest rate. Now some people say, okay, but what if interest rates then go down? Let's say we hit deep recession, and then we would need to restart economy, and they will drop down rates back to 2s. Excellent. That's best time for refinance, because during the time of recession in a high inflation, your income is probably going to be indexed to inflation, so it's going to increase. So when the rates go back down to 2s, if you qualify now at 5.5, then most likely you'll be qualifying at 2 much easier. So that will be great time to refinance and possibly even cash out some money. So that is why I anticipate that now is the best time to buy. Our governor DeSantis said that he wants to fight Chinese buying US real estate. So that's what happened. People from other countries come and buy real estate here because they believe in it. They see value in it. So that is why I want to reiterate that it is good time, and that will always keep value and will appreciate. So this is the safest asset, to my understanding, at the moment.
Yeah,
Okay.
You're right. I agree completely with that, and I wish we had more time to cover all those.
We'll do next time. We'll meet again, and then we'll do and give updates on new things that will be happening. Arlindo,
Yeah. We'll bring that subject again on our next interview.
Yes.
Because it's a very good topic. People are very interested about that. Foreign money are still coming into the United States. In some counties, more than 50% of the houses are being sold cash, which means we got money coming from overseas. So those are very good topics, but unfortunately, we're running out of time for our interview.
We'll cover it in our next meeting. Arlindo, pleasure. Enjoy your stay in Brazil. Sunshine, beach.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Thank you. It's good to have you here with us today. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you next time.
All right.
Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys like it.